Today, legislators and elected and appointed officials and residents, thank you for coming today. This document outlines my assessment of the Affordable Housing Amendment, with supporting data to show that this amendment was not interlocked with the Water Master Plan, and together these amendments will be a financial and environmental disaster for the residents and taxpayers of this county. Using the U.S. Census data and parameters for estimating population, I have found that the 38,518 units of affordable housing proposed by the county, combined with the normal population growth, will result in a population explosion of 174,000 people over our current population. And there are a number of components that make this up, and they are affordable housing impact will add the potential for 110 additional residents, just to occupy those residents. The U.S. Census growth rate for Curious Joel from 2000 to 2008 supports a growth rate that's twice as big as the one that Water Master Plan uses, and that's an additional 20,000 residents. And on top of that, the normal growth rate, which was projected in the Water Master Plan of 43,000, gives us 174,000 new residents. The failure to link the Affordable Housing Amendment to the Water Master Plan is a critical omission to these amendments and the validity of their recommendations. The impact on water demand, water supply, water capacity, wastewater capacity, and the general infrastructure needed to support this explosion in population has been ignored and needs to be addressed. The U.S. Census data on affordable housing does not support the demand that the county has outlined in this amendment. Over the past 16 months, these amendments have been found to have seriously flawed population data that resulted in the withdrawal of the strategic plan and the data gathering documents that were produced by consultants, and they were not free. These documents also had flawed water supply, demand data, and failed to take into consideration the impact of wastewater, roads, existing water, and wastewater infrastructure needs. The legislature, as lead agency, has accepted a negative declaration as a response to SECRA. This will avoid a hard look at any of these problems and their impact on the taxpayers and the environment. This failure to link these two amendments can be added to that list of flaws. The financial and environmental impacts of these amendments and the significant unknown costs associated with them are only part of the problem. In 2008, the Orange County Financial Report shows that the county had a current debt of $341 million. And in 2010, the capital plan shows an amount approved and unspent of $135 million. With interest, this adds $234 million, for a total of $575 million in debt. Over the past 2 years, the county budget shows a growth in the county debt burden of 16%. If the rate of growth continues, then the county will have a debt of over $1 billion by 2015. And that does not take into consideration these two amendments or the government buildings that the county executive has identified as a priority. In conclusion, if you approve these amendments, you will be representing the county government, but you will have failed the residents, the voters, and the taxpayers of this county. You will be bringing upon those who have entrusted you with the financial oversight a tsunami of financial and environmental issues that will bury the residents, the voters, and the taxpayers of this county. I respectfully request that you not support these amendments and vote no when they come before you. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Edelstein. Thank you. Chairman Phil Meyer, Chairperson Bonasek, members of the legislature, ladies and gentlemen. This may be the last hearing sponsored by the county on the comprehensive plan, but it will not be the last word on some of the narrow issues in the plan, such as interconnection, priority growth areas, and ultimately who pays. I want to give a special thanks to Commissioner Church and Ed Helbig for their participation and access. It is my hope that when the legislators have read the statements by all the speakers at these hearings, they will ask those speakers to participate in a respectful discussion of areas of agreement and disagreement. And please don't just pass this plan. Every taxpayer ultimately has to live with it. I also want to thank the local elected officials who have expressed their concerns, and please include them as well. I have never heard anyone at any hearing say they are against affordable housing. As the gentleman just said, we want our children to stay here, we want our grandchildren to be able to stay here. But affordable housing doesn't help anyone if it's at the end of an interconnection in the middle of the town of Minnesink. Our cities need affordable housing, new and rehabilitated. Our cities and larger municipalities need their existing water and sewer systems upgraded. What they don't need is taxpayers paying for infrastructure to be put in place for future developers. At the last hearing, a very wise man said, "Build more houses, you will need more roads. Build more roads, more people will come, you will need more houses." And as the gentleman, the man in the Field of Dreams said, build it, they will come. And that is exactly what will happen. But we need affordable housing, we need good infrastructure, and I, for one, would like to, as the figures Bob was just reading, I think that we might also consider holding this piece of the plan and waiting for the census figures, which will be out next year, which is, just a matter of months. As far as Ed Helbig's presentation on the rest of the issues, we couldn't agree more. Conservation, preservation, education, protection of groundwater, all of those things are good and necessary. And so the affordable housing and all of the good conservation and preservation ideas, they're wonderful. Let's continue discussing. Let's leave that area open and continue discussing the interconnections of the priority growth areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Michael Edelstein, followed by Sandra Cortese. And I do just want to mention, if anybody has written comments to submit this evening, you can give it to Lori Whitefall.
Allow me to dispense with saying hello to everybody in detail, but I think it's an important opportunity to look at what we have, but also what we don't have. What I see happening here is a failure in the sense that Orange County, in my view, for a long time has needed to update the comprehensive plan in a comprehensive way. Instead, we have segmented pieces here of a plan without really looking at their mutual effects, and with also not looking at the other issues in the county that would relate to these elements. Now, in the water plan, which I'm going to focus on, a lot of the key elements that the Water Authority has been working on for many years actually can be traced back to a document that came from Orange Environment, which was our alternative water plan. And so we laud the focus on things like conservation, water protection, etc. At the same time, with this group of items, I think they need to be taken much further to the point of prescriptive, detailed steps that will be carried out. My fear is that they're too general, and therefore they won't be acted on in commensurate level to what the requirement is, what the need is. The interconnections that are in the project could be justified, but I don't think they're justified adequately, and it leaves open the possibility of political thinking rather than analytical thinking for some of the interconnections. The interconnections are not justified by the deficit analysis, which shows that only 3 communities have water deficits, 1 in the long term, the 2 in the short term, may have solved those deficits with actions that have already occurred, we don't know. So the justification is not sufficient, and the impacts of those interconnections are not addressed. We have a statement in the plan that assumes that water usage remains flat, when in fact, when Orange Environment, in its assessment of the Montco project recently looked at the Harriman Sewer Treatment Plant, we discovered a trend of increasing water going into the plant, not from storm usage, but from regular usage, suggesting that there's an incremental increase or an exponential increase of water usage. That needs to be accounted for. It suggests that water usage is not flat. And finally, the real outrage here, the patent absurdity, is the failure to look at other elements of what would be part of a comprehensive analysis, particularly sewerage. you've already, I think, heard my analysis that Orange County lacks in the Harriman plant the capacity to handle Monco, the capacity to handle commitments recently made to KJ, and certainly the capacity to handle additional sources of